Today on ANN, the Seventh-day Adventist Church gets down to business at its World Session in San Antonio, Texas.
Delegates are using a new electronic voting system, and we'll show you how it works.
The Adventist Church continues to grow as new unions are welcomed into the World Church family.
These stories and more coming up. This is ANN, a service of the Seventh-day Adventist World Church.
We're coming to you from San Antonio, Texas, where the 60th Annual World Session is underway here in the Alamo Dome. We have full coverage on this, the first day of GC session, and other news from around the world. First in the news, World Session delegates are trying out a new wireless technology to cast ballots.
The new electronic voting system is supposed to make vote counting faster and more accurate. ANN's Jeff Williamson shows us how it works.
One of the most important and influential activities of this session is the changing of policies and other important decisions that relate to the Seventh-day Adventist World Church. In order to make those adjustments, the more than 2,500 delegates must vote. In the past, when voting, delegates held up this card, a piece of paper signifying their approval.
Usually at a general conference session, used the ballot card, a brightly colored paper, because you can't tell if people just raise the hand. I mean, it's too far distant from the chair to be able to make an accurate estimation of a vote. So we have used historically a voting card. That is a very bright color. You can see whether there's one or 1,000 of them.
But to obtain better accuracy, church leaders have opted for an electronic voting system. The votes are cast on these devices, and the vote count can be seen on a large screen for all to observe. There are other advantages as well.
It can be totally anonymous, and we believe totally accurate in terms of the count, and would be less time-consuming.
More than 2,500 of these devices were available for all the delegates that will be here to vote. Voting must be done here on the floor in order for the vote to be counted electronically. One of the other rules regarding these devices is, if you don't bring it to the session, you cannot vote. But with anything electronic, it sometimes does not work. When delegates took a practice vote this morning, the system didn't work exactly like it should have.
Yes, we discovered some of the shortcomings this morning, which we're still trying to figure out the cause of. We know the system works. We think part of the system, part of the difficulty is because the communication system is overwhelmed by the frequency used in the dome's Wi-Fi system.
Church leaders say change can be difficult, but believe that this glitch will be worked out so that votes will be counted and counted accurately. For ANN Video, I'm Jeff Williamson.
After this morning's practice, engineers went to work troubleshooting the issue. Late this afternoon, church officials said they had fixed an electrical interference problem and shared more information to delegates on how to use the electronic voting devices correctly.
After years of preparation, the moment finally arrived this morning when church leaders brought the World Church into a business session. After a morning worship by Janos Kovosh-Biro, Secretary of the Inter-European Division, delegates welcomed a host of new unions into the church family. What you see on your screen is a scrolling list of new unions approved this morning. It's such a large list we don't have time to show them all, but it is an encouraging sign of church growth. More than 30 unions were formally admitted today, most from Africa and Central America. General Vice President Ben Schoen highlighted a reconciliation that recently took place in the Adventist Church in Hungary after a 40-year rift. The Seventh-day Adventist Church in Hungary split in 1975 as a result of a protest by young pastors and members over local church leaders' collaboration with an organization called Council of Free Church that later became a tool for the communist state. In May, leaders from the Seventh-day Adventist Church in Hungary and the breakaway group that goes by the name CARIC signed a document entitled Joint Declaration on Settling the Past and Building a Common Future. The document acknowledges that the Adventist Church in Hungary expelled the protesting group of 518 members in 1975, largely without merit. Today, Elder Schoen invited representatives from both sides on stage to present to the delegates. CARIC has between 1,500 and 1,800 members. Church leaders say while 400 members don't plan to return to the Adventist Church, 600 members of Carrick say they will return within a few months, and the remaining members are open to the idea.
The delegates also viewed the film entitled What Might Have Been. The 17-minute movie is about a vision received by Seventh-day Adventist Church co-founder Ellen G. White. The film illustrates what could have happened during a General Conference session in the early 20th century. Church leaders hope the film will encourage delegates to seek humility and a spirit of unity during session. After the viewing of the film, World Church President Ted Wilson appealed to the delegates to earnestly seek the Holy Spirit during the church's business meetings. He also invited the delegates to break out into prayer groups and ask for the outpouring of the Holy Spirit. You can watch the film at revivalandreformation.org.
The decision to bring the Adventist World Session to Texas was actually made 9 years ago.
Now, it literally takes that long to plan a major convention like this. ANN's Jeff Williamson says the city is rolling out the red carpet.
San Antonio, Spanish for St. Anthony, is one of the most populated cities in the United States with a population of nearly 1.5 million. For the next 10 days, it will also now be the home of tens of thousands of Seventh-day Adventists. This 60th session of the World Church is the largest convention this city has ever seen.
This conference is 10 days, and the average attendee during that 10-day period is 35,000 that we have estimated, with the ultimate convention being about 70 to 75,000. So it is the largest that we have ever hosted.
San Antonio is known for the Alamo, the Riverwalk, Tower of the Americas, the Alamo Dome, and more. Seventh-day Adventists have descended upon this city with all of its attractions and friendly people who have welcomed them with open arms.
I can tell you from not only Seventh Day that I've heard this particular week, but from other convention goers that come to our city, it is one of the friendliest cities in the country. People walking on the street, they look like they're looking for something. The average citizen will stop and say, "How may I help you?"
San Antonio has a lot to offer, which is what brought church leaders to this city. $40.5 million. That's the economic impact of the Seventh-day Adventist Church here in the city of San Antonio. It has not been an easy journey. Planners have been working on this for over a decade.
It has been a lot of work by a lot of people. You hear often that it takes a village. Well, our village of San Antonio has worked very, very hard to make this a great experience for all of your attendees that are coming to this conference. I am so elated to have you here, and certainly hope that people enjoy the city and they'll come again.
For ANN Video, I'm Jeff Williamson.
Local restaurants in San Antonio are making delegates feel at ease with newly added vegetarian menus.
The Seventh-day Adventist Church this week launched the official website for its outreach initiative called My Whole Life Matters. The website shares the unique message of the Adventist Church through content about faith, healing, and service. Visitors will be able to find encouraging messages in 60-second video clips, read tips on healthy eating, including how to curb a sweet tooth, and see acts of incredible service by people of all ages. Brent Harding, web manager for the Seventh-day Adventist Church, shares the difference between the sites My Whole Life Matters and Adventist.org.
Adventist.org is designed to share information about our church and our beliefs with the public. My Whole Life is designed to share our beliefs and how they apply in an everyday, practical manner, with information from health to family life to physical exercise, and how people apply those beliefs in an everyday manner.
You can check out the website at mywholelife.com.
Coming up after break, see who is chosen to represent the church's 18 million worldwide members.
And also see how the church's top leaders are elected.
I love walking along the California coast. There are so many interesting and beautiful living things here. But the real action is out here in the ocean. That's where the life really gets interesting. One of the things that is going on right now is the gray whale migration along the coast of California. Gray whales and whale migrations in general are one of the subjects of the new Illustromedia documentary, Living Waters. If you're half as excited about the ocean as I am, you won't want to miss that. The premiere of Living Waters is going to be on July 10 in the afternoon at the General Conference. If you want free tickets to the world premiere, there's only one way to get them. Come to the Faith and Science Council booth and get tickets there, and they're absolutely free.
All day long, I solve problems. It's nuts and bolts and grease. And I love it. But at the end of the day, I think about the world's problems. I wonder why we're all here and how it will end. And I found something that makes sense of it all. Takes the nuts and bolts of history and paints a bigger picture. Now, I have hope.
I know I'm looking for something. But what? Peace? Purpose? Meaning? I'm still not sure. But I know it's going to take faith.
At the very first World Session in 1863, only 20 delegates were present. This year, in San Antonio, there are more than 2,500. ANN's Deborah Anderson explains who the delegates are and how they were selected.
Being a delegate at the GC session is an awesome responsibility. It's an honor to serve the church in such a capacity, as it is the delegates who embark on the most important work of the church.
What do you hope to get out of this as a delegate?
What I hope, the best hope is to our church continue to be united. That's my big hope.
This year, there are 2,566 delegates in total. Their work includes electing leaders of the Seventh-day Adventist World Church and its divisions, voting on changes to fundamental beliefs, amending the church manual, and other issues as they arise. So, who are the delegates and how were they selected? The delegates are broken down to two groups: regular delegates and delegates at large. The regular delegates represent local churches, conferences, and unions made up of pastors, laymen, and elected church officers. Delegates at large represent the General Conference, its divisions, and church institutions. Breaking it down a bit further by age and gender, 6% of the delegates are under the age of 30. The majority of the delegates are between the ages of 30 and 59, while 22% are over the age of 60. A stark contrast can be seen when we break down the delegates by gender. 83% are male, while females make up only 17% of those chosen to serve. So why is the percentage of female delegates so small? The answer is really pretty simple. Church leaders are primarily male, and it is these leaders who are chosen as the delegates. Over time, as more women are elected to church leadership, there will be more women delegates. It is important to note, however, that the delegates are sent by their executive committees rather than being chosen by the General Conference.
I don't think that women are aware of what a low percentage of representatives we have as delegates. Number one, I'm very honored that I am a delegate. I feel very unworthy, to represent God's people. I guess that's my first point of view. But being a female, being a woman, I like that aspect of it because we have a different thoughts. We think differently from men, perhaps, and that would help in the decisions that we can make in this general session.
Delegates put in some pretty long days, starting at 8 in the morning for morning worship and running well into the evening hours. For ANN Video, I'm Deborah Anderson.
Delegates are here from all over the world representing more than 190 countries. One of the most important outcomes of any world session is the election of officers, both at the General Conference and division levels around the world. This afternoon, delegates caucused by division and elected 252 members that come together to form a nominating committee. The nominating committee selects its own chairman and works tirelessly for the rest of the session, nominating candidates who will be voted on by the delegates at large.
One of the committee's first assignments is to nominate a General Conference president. As ANN's Deborah Anderson explains, the process requires prayer and the leading of the Holy Spirit.
The election process for the Seventh-day Adventist Church is a robust operation. It centers on the small group of delegates known as the nominating committee. But who gets to serve on this nominating committee, and what exactly is the process to elect the church's leaders? Well, each division is allowed to send 10% of its delegates to the nominating committee. The General Conference, on the other hand, is only allowed to send 8% of its delegates. The selected delegates will form a committee of 233 delegates from the church's 13 divisions and 19 delegates from the church's world headquarters, also known as the General Conference. There is a certain criteria to serve on the committee. For instance, delegates selected for the nominating committee cannot be elected officials of the General Conference. These officials include General Conference and division presidents, vice presidents, secretaries, treasurers, division officers, officers of the General Conference Auditing Service, and leaders of the General Conference departments. In other words, if you are up for election during session, well, then you cannot serve on the nominating committee. Once all of the 252 openings for the nominating committee have been filled, the committee is directed to a private room where it immediately begins fulfilling its duties. It begins with the selection of the nominating committee chair, vice chair, secretary, and associate secretary. The first position the nominating committee considers is the president of the General Conference. Once the president is elected, he then serves as the advisor to the nominating committee for the remainder of the election process. After the president is elected, the committee selects names for the General Conference secretary and the General Conference treasurer. After the General Conference officers have been elected, the committee selects names for the remaining positions to be filled during session. The process continues in the same manner until all of the positions have been filled. Now, once the committee decides on a name, the nominating committee officers taste that name, or sometimes names, for several positions to the pool of delegates to vote on. If there are reservations about names, delegates can then make their case in front of the nominating committee. For ANN Video, I'm Deborah Anderson.
As thousands of attendees arrived here for the World Session, they came by plane, car, bus, and yes, some even biked in.
It may seem like an unusual mode of transportation, but 16 riders left Dallas on Sunday to pedal their way 300 miles to San Antonio for an event known as Tour de Youth. Pastor Ken Dixon says it was all for a worthy cause.
We saw that there was a need in our area, that young people are getting obese at young ages, getting diabetes and all sorts of different diseases. And so we as leaders wanted to be an example.
69-year-old Reg Lawson underwent open-heart surgery last year. He says he took the challenge to stave off old age.
I rode 7,000 miles last year. Yeah. And so this is not that big a deal.
The group's oldest rider, 71-year-old Nelson Huff, says it was a routine ride for him.
I'm an avid cyclist, so it's just another week for me.
But for cyclist Shaw Saunders, stewardship director for the Southwestern Conference of Seventh-day Adventists, the 4-day trek over hills and valleys was a personal testimony of healing.
It's August the 8th, 2014. We were in a major bicycle accident. An 87-year-old man hit me, threw me about 15 feet in the air. When I landed, I had broken my pelvis in 2 places and fractured my left hip joint socket. This is my testimony. The Lord is my healer, Jehovah Rophe. So I am a living witness that he heals.
Houston native Norma Townsend says it was a tough ride, but well worth it.
It's important that our children understand that we are here for them, no matter what. And so this ride brought to a lot of attention the fact that there are so many children who are obese right now. And so we need to do all we can to help those children out.
For ANN Video, I'm Deborah Anderson.
The cyclists want to raise $300,000 in scholarships for needy children to attend summer camp and college.
And now it's time for your daily GC Session social media report with Angela Type.
Welcome to GCSA 15. Whether you're joining us from right down the road in warm San Antonio or from across the world, we're glad to share this experience of community with you. By this afternoon, thousands of tweets had already been shared using the hashtag GCSA15. You can contribute what you're experiencing, questions, thoughts, or just follow along with how General Conference Session looks like from the eyes of those experiencing it here. Also, let us know what you'd like to see around the Alamo Dome or the Convention Center, and we'll see if we can take you there to get a look. We're working hard to bring you up-to-date information by live tweeting at the handle GC Session and also by sharing on Facebook at facebook.com/GC Session. You can see some of our favorite pictures so far at the Adventist Church Instagram account, and you'll find it at instagram.com/Adventist Church. If you're interested in seeing behind the scenes and you have Snapchat, you can find us there at Adventist Church. We share a look at how session unfolds around us. You can also see some moments live by following the Adventist Church Periscope account. We look forward to seeing more from you.
For today's tech tip, Ian Nugent shares how to use key features on the GC Session app, including how to keep track of events.
Hi, I'm going to give you a brief overview of the GC Session app. You can find the app in the Google Play Store as well as in the Apple App Store. When you open the app, you'll find on the first row of icons there the events icon. And I really like this one because it gives you a listing of all the major events that are taking place at session during each day. You can scroll through, see the name of the event, tap on the event, and then you can see details of the event. You can see the speaker, you can see the chairperson, the secretary of business sessions. You can even see many of the musicians that will be participating in the event. Tapping on one of those participants will even take you to their area where you can see many of them have their bio uploaded, they have pictures uploaded, as well as being able to see where else they may be participating during the session. If you go back to the main screen, you can also go to the exhibitors icon. This is really nice. You can see a listing of all the exhibitors in the exhibit hall. Tap on them, and then you can see details of those exhibitors, where they're located on the map. You can also see many of them have uploaded resources, and you can see the resources that they've uploaded, and you'll be able to actually get a clue or a sneak preview of what you'll see at their booth. Finally, I want to make sure I mention this, the session material icon. Many times people have wanted to know what's going on in the business hall, what's going on in the session. On the first part of the session material, you can see GC Session 2015 agenda, and you'll have just what the delegates have in their hand in their notebook, the full GC Session agenda. Make sure you check out the GC Session app and have a great day.
Still ahead, we learn about a church leader's visit to a city that is recovering from a mass shooting.
But up next, see how the Adventist Church responded to the Supreme Court's ruling for same-sex marriage.
It all started in a small upper room with humble, fervent prayer. Threatened by the authorities and banned from preaching, the church prayed, and two men witnessed with great power and grace. And people prayed everywhere, in one accord, in repentance, with confession and humility, and the lives of people were changed. Two men started out on a missionary journey that would turn the world as they knew it upside down. And the message went out to the world beyond. corporate prayer helped a prisoner escape. A king requested that his people fast and pray, and the enemy was defeated. A battle won without the need to fight. Through a faithful servant and a young queen's faith and courage, a people were saved. Stories in the Bible showing the power of united prayer.
I firmly believe that true freedom comes from a connection with Jesus Christ. He himself said in John chapter 8, "Those whom the Son has set free are free indeed." That means freedom from guilt, freedom from fear. That means an assurance there is a transcendent power who is working that together for my good.
After the tragic killing of 9 people in Charleston in the U.S. state of South Carolina, Dr. Delbert Baker, General Vice President of the Seventh-day Adventist World Church, visited the Emmanuel African Methodist Episcopal Church during a service last week and conveyed respect and condolences. The victims, including the church's senior pastor and state senator Clementa Pinckney, were killed by a gunman during a prayer service inside the church. Thousands of people of all faiths and racial backgrounds were outside of the church before and after the church's first service since the killings. Baker said it was one of the most meaningful services he recalls attending. He also said, in the midst of the pain, there was evidence of the power of forgiveness and love.
Police in the U.S. state of Tennessee are investigating a fire at a Seventh-day Adventist church that could be arson. It was one of 5 fires in the last week at predominantly black churches in the country. According to ABC News, only 2 of the 5 fires are being investigated as arson. The fires come just days after what authorities believe was a racially motivated shooting inside a Charleston, North Carolina church. In Tennessee, fire damaged the church doors and destroyed a van used as a church bus. No injuries were reported.
Make sure you tune in tomorrow. You'll get to see who's been elected to serve the church's top offices.
You'll also see the church's Public Affairs and Religious Liberty Department honor Jamaica's Deputy House Speaker, Lloyd B. Smith.
Thanks for watching ANN. We'll be back tomorrow with more news from the 60th General Conference Session in San Antonio, Texas.
In the meantime, you can see more stories, photos, and videos on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram by using the hashtag GCSA15. Visit facebook.com/GCSession, Twitter @GCSession, and Instagram @Adventist Church.
Our good news for this week comes from the book of John, chapter 14, verse 27. In the passage, Jesus says, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid."
That's our program for this week. And remember, you can always visit news.adventist.org for daily news and videos. Until next time, God bless.
Take care.